Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to my guest. Today from Norfolk, Massachusetts. And I was pretty right. It was near Norwood. I know Norwood. Norfolk, I don't think of. Is Walpole near Norfolk?
Yeah.
Okay, I got the general gist.
Yeah.
Susan McCarthy is with us. And Susan is a professional organizer and an author. And she has written the book, Decadent Decluttering. Now, for those of us who tend to be a little teenage-ish, you know what I mean? Cool book. And also, she believes in a less cluttered life, and she's going to talk about this. You give presentations, right?
I do.
She does. First of all, how did it happen to you? Did you figure out that you were a clutterer? Not a hoarder, a clutterer.
My parents kept everything, and I had kind of a natural skill at organizing, putting things together, putting things away, fitting things in.
Yeah.
And because my parents kept everything, and it was very chaotic at home, and their theory of organizing was buying boxes and buying bins. So I would go after what can I fit in these boxes, what can I fit in the bins, labeling the boxes, putting things, together, so theoretically we could find them again. But
did it start to get?
Yeah, we lived in a really small ranch, not built in the 1950s.
That's what my parents built their ranch, but it was huge.
No, this was 800 square feet, and the walls started to get, closer and closer because we ended up with walls of boxes. Yeah. So that was just a very, very stressful situation. And after a while, as an adult, I realized, organizing things isn't really important if the stuff that you're keeping you never use again, or it isn't important, or you never look at it. Organizing is good, but if you're organizing clutter, it doesn't help.
That, you just said it. The toughest part is saying, okay, I can be pretty rough on myself and say, you don't need to get it out. I recycle clothes I think I had a friend years ago who said, I've never seen anybody recycle clothes so fast. That's a good thing. I'll give it to someone, if I wear it a couple times, I don't like it anymore or whatever, out it goes to a friend or to the bin. Okay, that's not a problem. Yeah. It's paperwork. It's paperwork.
Yeah.
I got to save this because that person might have a question, and that is hard.
Yeah, I think most people complain about paper because, it seems like it's so useful. I might need this for a reference.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays even the challenge is you have some people who are, what do they call them, digital immigrants, where, you grew up and, everything was just on paper, but now you're getting used to things being in computer, but they still feel obligated to print out everything, so they have things.
But I love printing it.
I know, but then you end up with things like printed out on paper, and then you have things saved on the computer, and you have all of these layers, and you still can get the information on the computer if you need it, but now you also have all of these papers, and unless you go through them very frequently, it adds up, and it becomes really...
This is so hard.
It's really...
We're talking with Susan McCarthy. She wrote this wonderful book, Decadent Decluttering. How to declutter your stuff, define meaning, and simplify your life. Gorgeous cover. Did you pick that out?
I did. It was, although I have to say, it was a stock image.
It was?
It was a stock image.
It looks like it was individually...
But... It was,
When did this come out? When did you?
This was, I think, December of 2017.
Oh, so it's been out a couple of years.
Yeah.
Was this your first book?
This was my first on decluttering.
On decluttering.
Yeah.
What was your other one?
I was a nature teacher actually before this.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Tell us about how'd you get into that?
I applied to something that said, "Hey, do you have experience with kids?"
Yeah.
And I learned all about nature. I wasn't a nature-oriented person before that.
Yeah.
And so I had a great mentor and learned all about it and started teaching. And so now when I work with decluttering people, I try, my goal is really to teach them how to declutter and not just do it for them, but to declutter.
So can you do both? Do you give workshops, right?
I do.
Okay. What if someone says, well, I need you to come to my house and they'll pay you. Do you do that too? Or?
I do.
Oh, that's cool. So you do both.
Yeah, so I can, go to somebody's house and help them declutter.
Oh.
Or I've also kind of come up with a new program, kind of a coaching program, where I spend 3 hours with them. It's called How to Declutter. I spend 3 hours with them. I teach them like the mindset, the habits, how to look at their stuff, how to plan through the whole process of decluttering. And then we actually declutter a small area of their house.
You start a little bit of...
We start small, but also most of it is what are the goals? What do you want to get done?
Yeah. What if it's your main room, like your home office? That's the only thing that really is exhausting. It's so
and for something like that, we would really just do kind of traditional organizing. Like let's start here and go through things.
Well, how about somebody like me who loves stuffed animals, and I have a few dolls? Yeah. I can't part with all of them.
And you don't have to. Yeah. I mean, if something is really important to you, and I think that's the thing people are afraid of with decluttering, is that they have to get rid of all of their stuff.
No.
But you really don't. If something is important to you, you can keep it. Okay. But when you get rid of the things that aren't as important to you, the things that are important to you show up more.
I like
and
that.
And you highlight them more.
Once I get that in my mind, I do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
It's looking at it every day and say, oh, well, I'll get to it. Oh, well, I'll get to it. I mean, it could be anything from the crumbs from your muffin in the morning underneath your feet to, like, everybody's who I work for, their files. I'm like, okay, where did I put that file? Okay, I know where that is. It's my father. He'd say, don't touch anything. I know where it is, but it'd be on the floor.
Yeah.
But he'd know where it was.
Oh, yeah.
But it was cluttered. We are talking with Susan McCarthy, author of Decadent Decluttering, How to Declutter Your Stuff, Define Meaning, and Simplify Your Life. How can they get a hold of your book?
So if you go to my website, alessclutteredlife.com, you can find information on purchasing my book, working with me, signing up for emails, hiring me to speak with you, or just read some helpful articles to get you started.
And don't forget to go downstairs in the Upton Town Library. There'll be a copy of her book down there. Where have you been appearing, basically?
I have done programs through some community education programs, so Milford, Norfolk, Franklin, so a few local areas.
How about libraries, book clubs?
I've done the Hopedale Library.
Yep.
So I need to kind of get the word out a little more.
We have
so
those
I need
wonderful
to get
bookstores around New England. Oh my God, I know. Now, in her table of contents, I love going through the table. Selling your stuff. Now, do you mean yard sales?
Yard sales, but nowadays you can sell things on Craigslist, eBay, you can go to consignment shops. Yeah. So there's a lot of options, and some of it really comes down to, it's really tough for people because they think their stuff is worth a lot.
Yeah.
And it's the big question of, is it going to be worth your time to try and sell everything? Like, what are you going to get off of this? From this item, and how much time is that going to take you to take photos of it, to write descriptions, to post it, to drive it to places, to consignment shops, and then to deal with mailing the item and things like that. Yeah. So it's one of those things that I think is really tough for people to think, how much money are you going to make, and is it worth the effort to sell things?
One thing I find, maybe you found it too. Bedside tables. Now, if you're an avid reader, there are books lining down the side, and I have cleaned off that bedside table how many times? My husband always says to me, well, it's just going to return to what it was, and son of a gun. I'm a piler. Not so much, I don't know how to put it, but I know where they are.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. It's very difficult to get past that.
And some of it is, you have to make the decision.
You got to be disciplined.
Well, some of it is really just like deciding how you want things to be. So you could say, well, I like having all these books in my bedroom because this is where I'm going to decide to read a book.
Yeah.
But if you don't want them at your bedside table, then is there a spot in your closet that you could stack them up, or
maybe
on
out
the
the
edge?
bookcase?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Is there someplace else that you could put them and just have the book that you're reading at the moment?
But that's the problem.
Which is tough because I know I read like 7
2 or 3
books
at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, a multitasker.
Yeah.
Do you run into many multitaskers who have problems with clutter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it because our minds, oh, I like that, I'm going to do this now,
Yeah.
I'm going to go I could have politics on TV, I could be working for a client on
Yeah.
here, and something over here. But I got it all.
Yeah, and that's and that's one of the challenges is, I think people start decluttering one section,
Yeah.
and then they go, oh, I need to move this someplace else, and then they bring it to another room, and then they're like, oh, let me tidy up here,
Yeah, uh-huh.
and it just keeps, it keeps rolling, and suddenly you're working in 20 spaces at the same time.
Oh,
So-
sentiment objects. What do you think? But things that are sentimental. Oh God, that's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, and that really should be the last thing that people
Yeah.
declutter. It's like go through things that aren't sentimental, and if as you're decluttering a closet or drawer and you find something that's sentimental, set it aside and do all of that stuff like at the end.
Like family pictures,
After
something that
once-
comes up. You've
yeah.
had a bunch of them stored. Like, oh, I can't throw that out. That's when he was like 2 years old.
And, but also the other thing is sometimes people have things that they say are sentimental,
Yeah.
but they have them locked up in boxes. And the boxes are, the flaps are done or it's taped up. And they say, oh, no, I can't get rid of this because it was my mother's. But it's like, well, what's in the box? And it's like, oh, well, that's all the sentimental stuff. And it's like, well, open the box. What's inside?
It's tricky.
And that, which is tough because sometimes people open the box and they're like, oh, there's like receipts from the grocery store, and
Yeah.
there's a to-do list, and it's things that they just swept off and never looked at, but in their mind it was really important. So, it's one of those things where I'm like, go through, actually touch all of those sentimental
them,
items, and really take some time with them and decide, is this something that you're willing to put on display, or is it something that you're going to put in a box that once a year or twice a year you're going to pull out and actually look at,
Or
so
photo
that you're
album?
giving
Or
photo albums,
Okay. My
or
family's got
even
tons of
or
photos.
even objects, but something that you're actually interacting with, because I think it's really sad to have items that are supposedly sentimental but are just locked away or shoved up in the attic or out in a garage, and you have no interaction with them,
I know.
but in your mind they're really important, but you're not treating them as important.
Well, we've got
And that's-
family albums
and
that go
that's the
back
tough thing.
way before I was born. And my son, he's a kid, he's 26,
Yeah.
he's for the first time going to see these. I'm going to go up to the attic with him.
Yeah.
And he's going to sit down with me. I'm going to say, "This was your great great grandma." He's
Right
going to
names.
that I'll never give away, because
Yeah.
the work that went into those. It's more of when I became a mother and raising him and all the memories from that I question. Well, do I need that? Anyway, we are talking with Susan McCarthy, and she has a wonderful. A less cluttered life is her theme. Where will you be appearing next?
I don't have any appearances coming up. Usually the winter, hopefully in the fall. If people want to schedule me for a presentation at a library, or even your community group, church group, you can contact me through my website, A Less Cluttered Life, and you can sign up for emails and see other ways of connecting and contacting me.
Are you available to go all over New England if you're asked to?
Yeah, for speaking, definitely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, workshops, what does that entail? Like, is it an hour, a couple hours?
Yeah, usually it's a couple of hours. Sometimes it's it's some worksheets to get people thinking. Things that people can take notes on.
I love that idea.
What
Hands-on.
and try to make it as hands-on as possible when you're not actually in somebody's house with their stuff.
Yeah. It gets us to look at it. I don't know, I'm one of those people that I can intellectually listen to you all day, but when you bring me into it, like, no, we're going to write this down and this and that,
Yeah.
I get physically involved, too. Good, I can't over-intellectualize it. I'm going to
Yeah.
see what I wrote down.
And it's it's one of the things that I think most people think when I declutter, I should just jump into pulling out a drawer,
Yes.
dumping everything out.
Yeah.
And really, the place to start is what's your goal?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Get rid of it.
Well, yeah, but also it's like, what do you want to be able to do with the stuff that's in that drawer?
What if it's like maybe it's an old, it's your car, I don't know, your car's thing and bill, or something you think you need to keep it. Maybe you should just get a shoe box and throw it in, and if it, I don't know.
I mean, and you can definitely hold on to things, but also it's deciding, particularly for things like paper, when are you going to get rid of it?
Oh,
That's and there's lots of resources online that will tell you, this is something that you should keep, keep until the next statement comes out, then you can toss the old statement. Or is this something that you should keep for a year, or you should keep indefinitely? I mean, sometimes I'll hear people go, "Oh, I was so happy, I was clearing all that paper. I tossed my, divorce decree or something." And it's like, no, that's one of those important papers that you should have.
But if you can get a copy of it, you don't have to panic. Like, okay, I know where I can go to get a copy.
Right, but it's one of those things. It's like, if it's really important, you could get a new Social Security card or new marriage certificate.
Oh.
But if it's something, one of those things that define your life or a life transition, hold on to it, because it's much easier if you have it in a box.
Your
or in a
family
file.
must love you, Lana. You were the one trying to organize things.
Yeah.
Okay, now do you have children?
I don't.
Okay, so your family still must appreciate the fact, get her over here because she can help us with this. I would be doing that.
If somebody loves their stuff, they love their stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people hear professional organizer and they think, oh, she's just going to tell me to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
And it's really I'm going to help you figure out what is the most important stuff to hold on to. And, for sometimes that can take a year for people. It can take a couple of years for them to look at stuff and, first get that thought of, oh, maybe I don't need this. And it could take them a year or 2 years to finally go, yeah, you're right, I don't need that.
And what can I donate?
Is
it still in good enough shape? Like I said, I recycle clothes. Like, that's no problem. Now, another one down here, I mean, if you're looking at the girls, is cosmetics, stuff like that. No problem. I might forget about it, but it's, I can throw that out. But vitamins, check the date on the vitamins, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's... Yeah, I mean, after my mother had passed and my father had gone into assisted living and I was decluttering the house, and all of the prescriptions or any of the even over-the-counter medications that had expired in, like, obscene amounts of years had passed, but they felt, well, just in case I need it. And it's like, it's not going to work if you have it. And
you get sick from it too.
Yeah, it's like, it's 12 years old. It shouldn't be that color or consistency. Yeah, get rid of it.
What do you think the hardest thing is? The paper to get rid of?
I think paper.
That would be my bugaboo. That would be the biggest thing for me. Books, I try to pare it down. I donate. I give them away.
Yeah.
But, I don't think I've ever met a book sale I didn't like. Oh, I love it. I do. And it's like, well, I'll just go look.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool, I love that, and I love that. I'm trying to learn. I give them away as much as I can.
Yeah.
Or, donate them to one of those book bins.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how fast they pile up.
It is.
It really
is. Oh, yeah, because, it's really easy to go and buy, go to a book sale and buy 10 books, and then it takes you a while to read 10 books. So.
Well, or you put them aside. It's like, well, yeah, that's cool, and I'll have them there, but I got to get over to the library because I'm going to check out what they've got now. So you got those. We're talking again with Susan McCarthy, professional organizer and author, A Less Cluttered Life. Again, how can they get your book?
So you can go to my website, A Less Cluttered Life. You can find links to purchasing the books. I also have some smaller books that are just an ebook format, so you can get them on your Kindle or your Nook or a tablet and read them. And you can also hire me to come to your home and work with you, or to go to your community group and give presentations and join my email list and all fun things like that.
I'd love to have her come to my house. I would, you must, it's finally, in what you're doing, how do you, somebody says come to the house and you're thinking, okay, needs some organized, but you walk in and you find out, oh my God, this is a hoarder. That's a different animal.
That is. And I'm not qualified to work with hoarders. You really need somebody who is a therapist who is working with a hoarder. Mm-hmm. And there are professional organizers who get trained to work with hoarders, because it's actually a psychological disorder now.
I've watched it on television. It can be very disturbing. It really
is. It is.
Really.
And and for them, I mean, for anybody, decluttering stuff isn't really just about stuff. It's all those thoughts and emotions you have about the stuff.
Losing control.
But it just becomes more difficult if you're truly a hoarder.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't sleep in your bed, you can't shower, you can't
and
cook
where do you
on
go
your
to
stove,
the bathroom?
and that's it. They keep buying stuff and they think everything's important. And it could be things like, I've heard of people going, it's the empty tuna cans, or used dryer sheets, or things that for most people don't seem like they're important. And so that, hoarding is a totally different animal. And a lot of people will joke, oh, I'm such a hoarder. But in most cases, if you can do your basic stuff that you need to do to live in your house, you're not a hoarder.
Now, here's a good one. I don't know if you guys can. I can, because hobby supplies. Oh, you go to Michael's, you go to AC Moore, like, I've got an idea. Okay, maybe you go through with your idea. You do it. Now I got a bunch of stuff now left over. Now what?
Yeah, that is a big challenge. And, in some cases, if you're still actively involved in those hobbies, get some good organizing, get some bins that are well labeled, get some cabinets that have those little plastic drawers that you can pull out and have things labeled. But really think if you are engaged in that hobby, if you're like, oh, I haven't knit for 8 years or 10 years, but I have all these supplies because I'm going to get back to it.
Donate.
Really think about, like, when was the last time you did that? And if you really decide to get back into it, you could go buy a skein of yarn and some knitting needles. And I know a lot of people are like, but I already own the stuff. But if you're not using it, somebody else could enjoy that.
Exactly.
Hobby.
That's what gets me finally. Like, somebody else could use this.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, because I love to. I'm philanthropic. I say, look, you take it. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, knowing that somebody can use their stuff, as opposed to the stuff sitting in their attic or a closet or their basement, and eventually, stuff, it gets that yarn might get a funny smell, or the paper starts to fade, and holding on to some of those craft supplies, isn't helpful. And even sometimes I like doing paper supplies, and I do card making, and every so often my goal will just be I can only use the scraps. And
wow, you are disciplined.
Try.
Whoa.
So I can use a full sheet for to make the card, but to decorate it, anything can only involve the scraps, and I'll use up the scraps.
You are fascinating. Now, when you were growing up, you were the organized person, and everyone around you wasn't, right? It was a mess.
Yeah, but even because everybody in my family had so much stuff, I had tons of stuff. My room was crowded. I had, oh my goodness, so many books. At one point, my brother built me a bookshelf, and it was so heavy duty, I was afraid it was going to go through the floor once I loaded it up. And, so, I mean, for a long time, but it, because my family kept everything, it seemed normal. It was like, oh, you don't get rid of stuff, you just hold on to it.
Yeah.
And, and it took a while, and at one point I went, oh, wait, you can get rid of it.
Okay, now I had my father cluttered, but an organized clutter. Okay, got that, in one room. That was his office. My mother she took care of this huge ranch, not a problem. I don't know how she did it. Beautiful, neat, clean. Now, in my bedroom, they had put a child, one of us kids slept in it, crib from my baby doll. All right, okay.
Yeah.
So that takes some space. Okay. Then I had a ton of stuffed animals, and I remember one time Mom was mad at me for something, and go to your room. I don't want to see your face again, type of thing, I went, oh. So I went there, and I'm thinking, how can I get in her good graces? So I thought, well, I'll clean this room. Yeah, right. You know what my idea was? To take, well, I don't know what I was going to do, I don't know, but I took all the animals and things and lined them all along the walls so you could walk in okay, right?
Yeah.
They were pretty neat. Then I wrote a little note, and I said, when you want to see my face again, I'm here. And I put it under the door. And she just came and she went, oh. But that's how I only knew how to clean. Just line it up. And then you'd line your bed at night with stuffed animals. There'd be no room for me, but I was keeping them warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and that's why I've come up with like this coaching program of learn how to declutter, so I can actually go into somebody's home and teach them how to declutter, and then give them 30 days of email access for support and accountability.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, you never learned how to declutter, you never learned how to organize.
Even if you're surrounded by a neat mom and everything, it's like,
Yeah.
She didn't push me.
Right. And in some cases, the neat moms are as, can be as troublesome as the really organized moms, because they might just find it easier to organize things on their own, so they never show you what to do, or it's going to be easier to do. And then the people around you or your kids never learn, they never learn what to do.
Well, for her to just get me out of the house, to go to school in the morning.
Yeah.
Good. So she probably figured, I'll make her bed. I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
I got her out to school. That was the big deal.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I mean, that was, I was not a morning person, and oh my God, I got to get up at 6, get to the bus. You know that.
Yeah.
Did you know when you graduated high school you'd go into this?
No. And it really...
What did you do when you...
I worked in the art department of a publisher.
Yeah.
I was an English teacher for a few years. I then became a nature teacher, and I would also do art and craft classes with kids. And so, I ended up going to a lot of places and teaching people things. Yeah. But wherever I was always the person who organized the cabinet, who organized the supply closet. Here's the library of books and old magazines that nobody's done anything with. I would go and organize that. The art supply room, I would organize it. And
this is amazing. What does it cost to have you come stay in our house for a week? we could put you up. Really, you can follow me around. You can pick up after it. Really, honest to God, I think you are amazing. You are so disciplined.
And it's, and part of it isn't, it's finding out what works for you, which is another thing that I think is more important than going in and, organizing somebody's stuff, is to find out, how are they going to work, and how are things going to work best for them.
What if they have a super busy day? I go from working on the computer to having... Then I think, well, I'm just too tired, I'm not doing it. What do you do with someone like that? I mean, you have to get a time frame?
It's really tough, but you have to pick, even 10 minutes during the day. And it doesn't have to be the end of the day, because I think a lot of people think, well, I'm going to tidy up at the end of the day.
Oh, no.
And if that isn't the right time, it might be some random time during the day. You might find, if, you work from home, maybe after you eat lunch is the right time to spend a few minutes,
or maybe
tidying up things.
On the weekend, okay, Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do this. We've got about 1 minute left. Okay, we were talking with Susan McCarthy, the author of Decadent Decluttering, and she also does workshops. One more time, how can they get your book and get in touch with you?
So if you go to my website, alessclutteredlife.com, you can find links to my books. You can find information about working with me, me coming to your house, hiring me to do a presentation, signing up for my email list. So everything is there at alessclutteredlife.com.
Now, one last question. I know that bins are not cheap. The dollar store doesn't sell the big bins we need.
No.
How do you tell somebody you can afford it? Go over there.
Don't buy them.
Don't?
Don't buy them.
Oh, I thought you said
no. You're going to end up with organized clutter. If you start off with bins, you're going to end up with organized clutter. Declutter first. Really find out what is important, and then only then think of what you need to, organizing tools. Chances are you already own them.
One last time. Where's the next time you're going to be appearing?
I don't have any current appearances.
We can get her out there. Yeah. We're going to get you back on the program. This is my angel over here, and I need you on my shoulder. Do you have a sleeping bag?
No.
You can come over to my house.
We got to move the cameras into your house, and we can declutter some drawers or
we got a
cabinets.
Great couch. You can bring a sleeping bag, and you can follow me around. I don't take offense. Just say, okay, I got to do what now? And I got to do this and that. I mean, even vacuuming, I'm like, oh, no.
And if you have less stuff in the way, it's easier to vacuum and clean.
Yeah. Well, you got a couple cats, too. They like to leave their fur around.
I have a long-haired cat. She loves doing that.
Do you have any secrets as to get rid of that fur other than vacuum?
Vacuum.
Oh, you are a hoot. This has been so much fun. Go downstairs to the library in Upton. Pick this up. If you're watching from out of town, out of state, out of the country, you can get her book. She's told you how to do that. Decadent Decluttering. And if you'd like her to come speak, grab her and give a workshop, because she is cool and she knows what she's talking about. I have never met her, but she has been fantastic, and I can listen to her all day. I wish she could come home with me. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Get her back on again. All right, we'll see you next time on Be My Guest.